This is Jonathan Catherwood of the MLJ Trust. The MLJ Trust is a charity in the United States that preserves the 1600 audio sermons of the late Dr. Martyn Loyd-Jones. Dr. Loyd-Jones and his wife, Bethan Loyd-Jones, had two daughters, Elizabeth, my mother, and Anne, my beloved aunt, and each of them had three children. So Elizabeth had Christopher, Bethan Jane, and myself, and my Aunt Anne had Elizabeth, Rhiannon, and Adam. Alas, my cousins were born too late to be in these home movies, which were mainly filmed between the late 1950s and the late 1960s, but we thought the people who followed Dr. Martyn Loyd-Jones might have some interest in seeing what he was like outside of the pulpit. As a grandfather, he was very warm and loving and gentle, and these are the videos where we see him smiling and relaxed. And for many people who watch this video, they will have been at Westminster Chapel at some point during his 30 years there. I'll try and keep the voiceovers to a minimum, but just to point out who is who, and we hope you enjoy it. This was a family gathering for what we think was my great-grandmother's 92nd birthday in the early 60s. My grandmother, Bethan Loyd-Jones, is in the middle, and coming into the frame on the right is my mother, Elizabeth, and my sister, Bethan Jane. There's our birthday girl. She lived to be 93 years old. Here's the family. You see my grandfather, Martyn Loyd-Jones, on the steps. That's my lovely Aunt Anne and my mother, the two sisters together. Here's a day out. My grandfather was never without a tie, and never without a hat, no matter what the weather is. That's Bethan and my mother. And here is Bethan sitting on my grandfather's knee. He was a very sweet and gentle grandfather, and we were always on and off his knees, as were my cousins in the early 70s. That's me being annoying. Apparently I was ill that day, and that's my excuse. And my grandmother was always in the house, and with my cousins as well as my brother and my sister. You just couldn't get a sweeter grandmother. We're a little older now. That was my brother running into the frame. That's my sister. That is me as a little boy, trying to let go of my grandfather's hand to run towards the camera. They took us on a lot of outings when we spent time together in the Easter and over the summer holidays. And that is the smile that I remember. He was always with a book. 2 to 3 hours every afternoon reading books in the library. And he also encouraged us to read and was interested in reading what we were reading, no matter how rubbish it was. He liked to know what we were doing, what we were reading, and to take an interest in it. It was very rare to see my grandmother without a hat, not just on church and Sunday. You will notice coming up in this shot that even though my grandfather liked to lead in the pulpit, when it came to walking around the gardens, my grandmother had quite a lot to say. She was a terrific woman. She's one of the earliest of her generation to become a medical doctor in the 1920s. She had 27 proposals of marriage, and my grandfather was the first one, and he was the last one. He just kept going. You see him being turned there by my grandmother. But he fell in love almost immediately and just hung in until she finally said yes. In the background, you can see my grandfather playing mini-golf with my brother and my sister and myself. He was a great fan of sports and would take us out in the afternoon, play this game and croquet, where he was easily the best in the family. We do hope that you've enjoyed these home movies, and thank you for watching them.